And the red blooms? Do you mean a rose? Bill answered. Yes, thanks, Keith said. Hey, Rose, what was the name of that class we went to? There are events that we should never forget. Memorial Day commemorates some of them. So, a brief background here. Some of you may know this, some of you do not. Tomorrow is Memorial Day. It was in 1971 that the day was changed from the traditional day of May 30th to the last day in May. Congress purposely moved it to a Monday so it would make a long holiday weekend. That was good for business, both recreational and for obvious reasons. And industrial complexes had concerns as well, since it is less expensive for them to shut down at the start or end of a week rather than midweek. Sadly, it would seem most people have forgotten the actual reason Memorial Day became a holiday. Our national observance of Memorial Day dates back to 1868, when General John A. Logan, Commander-in-Chief of the Grand Army of the Republic, named May 30th as a special day to honor the graves of Union soldiers. The Grand Army of the Republic was an organization of Union veterans of the Civil War, which existed until the mid-1950s. General Logan's order was that the day was designated for the purpose of strewing flowers or otherwise decorating the graves of comrades who had died in defense of their country during the rebellion. Hence, it was called Decoration Day. The selection of May 30th is attributed to a Virginian of French descent, Sandra Olivier Monsieur, who may have selected the date because it was also the Day of Ashes in France. That was the day Napoleon's remains were returned to France from St. Helena. There is debate as to the location and date of the very first observance of Memorial Day in the United States. Some claim the custom of honoring war dead began in Boalsburg, Pennsylvania. Others claim that the custom originated by some Southern women who placed flowers on the graves of both Union and Confederate soldiers after the war between the states. One historian states the ground for Union soldiers in the St. James River area of Richmond, Virginia was the first decoration day. The school superintendent and mayor planned a program of hymns and speeches and had the burial ground decorated with flowers. The federal government eventually got into the debate and in 1966 proclaimed that was the birthplace of Memorial Day, was Waterloo, New York. Since on May 5th, 1865, the people there honored soldiers who had died. While the federal government sometimes steps in with power and tries to make the decisions for everyone, the truth is that history is what it is. Regardless of what any government thinks or even what other people actually remember or not, we know that God knows what happened. According to the book of Revelation, He keeps the books on the life of everyone. It is also true that people throughout history have observed days of remembrance for all sorts of reasons, including the deaths of those who died in war. The reason for mentioning the history of Memorial Day is that traditions and holidays tend to change over time. And if we're not careful, the reasons for them can be lost altogether. The observance of Memorial Day was started in this country in remembrance of those who died in the war between the states. Since that time, those who have sacrificed their lives in service of our nation in any war have been added, and since 9/11, there has been more mention of those who have died in the line of duty in the emergency services such as fire, police, rescue, and medical personnel. I would have to say that those additions have been very good. With the original purpose of setting aside the day, I'm glad that everyone has joined us here today in remembrance of those who have given their lives for the sake of others. I often make trips on Memorial Day with my lodge to several area cemeteries, and we will place flags on the graves of soldiers. this is one of the things of the importance of remembering. I mention this because it is up to us to teach the next generation the meaning of the day. They need to learn our history and the sacrifices that have been made for the freedoms they enjoy, and all too often take for granted. The future of any nation demands that its citizens have a sense of history and that their place in it. In my own case, I have a couple friends that have served in the armed forces and died doing so. I coached a young man at Prairie in football named Richard Green. He was a Ranger. And I was good friends with Sergeant Dan Patron, both who gave their lives in service to their country. And we thank them for that sacrifice. I will say the failure to remember and honor the sacrifices by those who have gone on before us will lead to a failure to preserve the very things for which they died. Freedom is not free. We all know this. And those who recognize its cost will continue to pay its price so that it is preserved, while those who do not, will not, and will lose it. It is also important to set aside time to remember the sacrifices that have been made for us. But it is also part of our worship of God. When we set aside time and participate in activities that will cause us to think about the past, we can gain a sense of God's plan, which in turn gives us a greater confidence for the future. This is as true for nations now as it was for the ancient nations. Such a remembrance is even a main part of our worship of Jesus. Setting aside days of remembrance are nothing new. There are many of them in both the Hebrew and Greek scriptures for a variety of particular reasons. For example, in Genesis 9, God established the rainbow as a sign of his covenant with Noah, that he would not flood the earth again to destroy all flesh. It was a reminder of both God's judgment in the past and his promise for our future. In Joshua, it records the miraculous crossing of the Jordan River on dry ground. God directed the Levites to carry the Ark of the Covenant into the river, and as their feet touched the river, the water stopped flowing and the riverbed became dry. A man from each tribe then collected a large stone from the middle of the riverbed, and these were stacked on the opposite side of the Jordan as a memorial. The purpose was specifically so that when future generations of children were asked about the stacked stones, the story of the crossing could be retold. It was important to remember their history. Graves were a common sign and place of remembrance in ancient Israel, and they are still in many societies. Abraham established the cave as the grave site for his family, and it became a place of memorial for him and his descendants. However, Jacob was too far away from the family burial site when Rachel died. So he set up a pillar over her grave to mark it and cause her to be remembered. The kings of Judah that were good were buried in a particular royal tombs in Jerusalem where they would be remembered. And those that were not, or were evil, were not buried in that area. Memorials were not just prompted by particular days or sites, but also in what was written. King David wrote in Psalm 38:70 for the express purpose of being a memorial of what God had done. The same is actually true in our own society. There are particular days of remembrance, such as Memorial Day. There are particular sites of remembrance, such as cemeteries, battlefields, and museums. There are particular objects that cause remembrance of such monuments and historical signs. And there are songs, ballads, books, and poetry about the things that should be remembered. In the New Testament, we find that a central ceremony of worship is done as a memorial. In Corinthians, Paul explains the purpose of and procedure of the Lord's Supper of communion. He explains its history and its meaning in Jesus' very words concerning it. Jesus said that both the bread, which represented his body, and the cup, which represented his blood, were to be partaken in remembrance of me. This ceremonial memorial is observed by its followers as a proclamation of his death until he returns. There are multiple reasons to set aside a day to remember those who have died. We have went over several of these already. There's the national reason for remembering the high cost of keeping our political freedoms. This both honors those who have made the ultimate sacrifice and helps encourage people in the present to be diligent to maintain those freedoms. That alone is enough reason to have a National Memorial Day, and even more so for those that did willingly join in the fight for us. They gave their lives to establish and protect freedoms that would benefit others. We honor the history of the beginning of the nation. However, if we're honest about history, we quickly recognize that many who died were not fighting to protect our political freedoms. During the American Revolution, there were few that had any clear idea about future freedoms and what would arise by taking up arms against Great Britain. Many fought out of simple defense of home and family, as England treated the colonies more as foreign lands to be invaded and subdued than as fellow citizens. But out of that came one of the greatest countries ever. And while American patriotism is a hallmark of Memorial Day, there is another side of this that we should acknowledge as something of high honor. Many of those who have died in wars our nation has fought have died on foreign soil, seeking to provide and protect the freedoms of foreign peoples, in some cases, the enemies we were fighting. They may not have been a direct or immediate threat to our nation, but rather ideological and or long-term threat. Because of that, there have been strong political views about the wisdom of such wars. However, regardless of political views, those who have sacrificed themselves for the benefit of people in foreign lands should be remembered and commended. We should also point out that about 45% of military deaths have been from something other than direct battle. Things such as training accidents, equipment failure, weather conditions, disease, and inadequate medical care have been nearly as deadly as the enemy. In World War I, many soldiers died from the Spanish influenza. Those who have died from such things should be remembered and honored as much as those that died from a bullet or a bomb. The dangers in the rear lines may be statistically much less than those on the front lines, but death and injury are still a part of the risk, and they have claimed many victims who have served in those areas. From my reading of military history and watching many shows, which Brenda will tell you, if football's not on, that's what I'm doing, that's what I'm watching. Over the years, I've found the general truth from watching interviews with some veterans about those on the front lines. Regardless of the grand ideologies, concepts of freedom, or even threat to homeland, when the shooting starts, the general reason for shooting back is, of course, self-preservation. But the biggest thing to these men is to protect their buddies. They're on the line with you. Jesus himself commended this type of sacrifice. In John 15, Jesus said, "This is my commandment, that you love one another just as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends." The stories of those who have died demonstrating this kind of love abound. Those who volunteer for dangerous assignments or take up the most dangerous position to give the rest of their unit a greater chance. Those who have shielded others with their own bodies as bullets flew and bombs fell. Those who charged an enemy position to protect their friends by eliminating the enemy, or at the very least drawing fire away from their buddies. Those who have demonstrated a greater concern for those they love than for their own life. There may even be those that are here today only because someone else took the hit and paid the price instead of them. It is this very reason that causes the vast majority for those who have done some heroic deed and survived to downplay it as just doing their duty. They were only doing what others were also doing for them for the same reasons, and some of those did not come home. What is the response of someone who's had someone else lay down their life for them? I can't imagine other than extreme gratitude. That is why Memorial Day has always been such an important holiday among veterans, and especially those who have served on the front lines as compared to the rest of us. Many of them personally know the price someone else paid that has allowed them to live. They will remember and honor those who have gone on before them. As a country, we remember and are grateful for the precious freedoms that we have enjoyed over the course of our country's history, because there are so many who risked it all and those who paid the ultimate price to procure them. As a society, we remember and are grateful for the lives we've been able to live in safety because of those who placed life and limb in jeopardy, and for those who lost their lives to secure that safety for the rest of us. As individuals, we remember and honor family members, friends, loved ones, and buddies who have been killed not only in our nation's military actions, but also, again, our emergency responders, our police, our fire, our rescue, our medical personnel who have died in the line of duty. We have not forgotten them, and we honor them here today. As great as love as it is for man to lay down his life for his friends, there is one person that demonstrated an even greater love. Jesus continued in John telling his disciples, "No longer do I call you slaves, for the slave does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends. For all things that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatever you ask of the Father in my name, he may give it to you. This I command you, that you love one another." This statement in itself is wondrous, as Jesus, the Son of God, is saying to his disciples, who were mere humans, Jesus came to earth, became friends with humans, and promised to reveal God the Father to them. Perhaps we can understand Jesus dying on behalf of his disciples, since they were his friends, for that would parallel what he has seen in the lives of men who have died in trying to protect their family and friends. However, Jesus is loved one beyond this, isn't it? Can there be a greater love than a man laying down his life for his friends, or someone dying in the place of a good man? Yes. But no mere human would do so. It would take God in human flesh to do so, as Paul stated. But God demonstrates his own love towards us. In the while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. There may be the rare individual who might dare die for a righteous or a good man, if he could be found, but would he die for sinner? Let's ask the same question in this way. What is the treatment that usually is given to a hated enemy? Perhaps in the general bond that can exist between all soldiers, because of common hardships, there could be some general respect maybe, and kindness shown to maybe a captured soldier. But what about towards an enemy soldier that is still fighting? A good soldier out of love for his buddies might put his life on the line for their benefit, but would he do so for the benefit of his enemy? Think about that. But that is what Jesus did. His death was not just on behalf of his friends, He willingly made himself a sacrifice needed to redeem, cleanse, and reconcile sinners, the very people that were killing him and torturing him. Today and tomorrow, we give special recognition to those who have died for the cause of freedom or in the effort to protect others. What they have done is truly amazing. It should be remembered and honored. And we who have received the benefits of their sacrifice, we should all be truly thankful. However, we also call on all men everywhere to remember, honor, and give respect to Jesus. Above all, for he demonstrated the greatest love for all men, and he extends the greatest benefit to all of us who believe him, life eternal with his Father. Very comforting. We bow our heads for a moment. Dear Heavenly Father, we just come before you. We would just like to thank you for this great country, for all of our freedoms. Thank you for these soldiers. Their sacrifice has made everything possible that we enjoy today. We'd ask that you would be with their families, comfort them. We also ask today that you be with Pastor Keith and his family as they can enjoy a time together to celebrate these congratulations. And to all the seniors, that you be with their families and help them grow closer to each other and be closer to you. We ask that you be with us as we leave here today. Be with us and walk with us throughout the week. And you just give us the strength and courage to spread your love to others. This week